A legendary hero is someone who holds absolute power over the world. There were sword masters who could terrify armies just by whispering their name. There was even a king who built an entire empire from scratch. And let's not forget the head of a massive, shadowy organization. These legends saved the world, but he didn't fit in, he just wanted strength. But honestly, he thinks those so-called heroes can go screw themselves. They took a 10-year-old boy and tortured him just to train him. If things weren't to their liking, he was greeted with a fist to the face, even if he somehow survived their insane trials and got a rare moment of kindness from a cute face. They would just throw him into a pit of fire for his own good. His soul is literally covered in scars from dealing with these maniacs. But finally, he stands at the edge, leaving the Hall of Heroes. Look at that evil grin, he is ready to say goodbye forever. He strikes a confident pose, but they still just call him Davy. They're actually worried he's too weak and should have been burned longer. He reminds them that they are ancient grandmas in disguised bodies. That comment earned him a giant boulder dropped on his head. He plugs his ears, ignoring their nagging like a rebellious brat. She's furious that he has a death wish right at the end. The teachers start fighting each other instead of focusing on him. He holds back a snarky comment, barely keeping his cool. He starts backing away slowly while they are distracted. The legendary masters finally stop to watch their student leave. He doesn't care about the sentiment, he just says goodbye. They yell out, telling him to remember them for as long as he lives. He gives them one last look with those glowing red eyes. He takes the final step out of that hellish dimension, turning his back on the past without a single shred of hesitation. The whole squad waves him off. Deep down, they actually loved him. But he keeps walking, determined to escape their grasp. A wicked smirk creeps onto his face as he fades away. His only wish is to never see their faces again. The world dissolves into a thin, blinding strip of light. Absolute darkness takes over his consciousness. Suddenly, a burst of magic snaps him back to reality. He wakes up to the sterile sight of a medical Roman IV drip. He is lying in a massive, fancy bed, completely still. A gentle breeze blows the curtains, but something feels strange. His hand is frail, skinny, and hooked up to machines. He tries to move, but his body is totally paralyzed and stiff. He stares up at the luxury chandelier, gasping for air. It's too much effort, so he immediately just gives up. He realizes with a shock that he has finally returned. He's back in his old room, staring at a family portrait. There he is in the picture, the abandoned, weak prince. His name is Davy Alrone, the first son of a worthless king in a totally insignificant country. That is his identity, a prince that nobody respects. But he is thrilled. Being bedridden in luxury is heaven compared to his training. Okay, scratch that, he immediately takes back everything he said about luxury. He realizes just how foolish he was to think his royal life would be a fairy tale. In this brutal world, being a weak prince just puts a giant target on his back. But there's no point crying over the past, it's time to move on. His first mission is simple: fix this broken body before his enemies finish the job. He tests his vocal cords, making weird noises just to see if he can even speak. A terrifying grin spreads across his face. Oh, they have no idea what's coming. But his body instantly revolts, hitting him with a wave of pain. He's gasping for air, realizing that even standing up is a massive workout. His eyes lock onto the weird green fluid in the Roman IV drip. He stares at it suspiciously, knowing he can't rely on these machines forever. With a heavy sigh, he decides to play dead for a moment. The reality finally sinks in. He has truly returned to this world. Outside, the castle stands tall, completely unaware of the monster waking up inside. It's a beautiful day, but things are about to get ugly for his haters. Suddenly, the door clicks open. Someone is coming in. He quickly closes his eyes, wondering just how much time he lost. A lone maid enters to change his medicine. She's the only one who visits. He isn't surprised, of course. The useless prince was abandoned by everyone else. She works quietly, mentioning that he's been in a coma for a long time. One eye pops open in annoyance. Seriously, just one maid for prince. As soon as the door shuts, the room falls back into silence. He sighs, deciding to see her presence as a rare blessing in this mess. The coast is clear, so he snaps his eyes open. He drags his heavy body up, groaning like an old man. He can barely move, but hey, at least he can stand on his own 2 feet. But before plotting revenge, there is one critical thing he needs to check. He grabs the calendar, desperate to know the date. He scans the numbers and freezes. It is the year 278. His mind flashes back to the moment that cursed arrow pierced his chest. He does the math and nearly passes out. He's been asleep for 6 years. 6 whole years of his life were stolen while he lay in that bed. He looks in the mirror and barely recognizes the haggard stranger staring back. A fire lights up in his eyes. He refuses to be a victim anymore. He swears he will never be that pathetic weakling again. He looks at his trembling hand. It's time to get to work. He clenches his fist, ready to unleash his godlike power. He commands the magic to restore his broken body, and absolutely nothing happens. He sits there in awkward silence, looking like a total idiot. Panic sets in. Where is his magic? This is not part of the plan. He suddenly remembers the saintess calling his holy power average. She claimed he could be the best at wielding it, but he thought she was just lying. Holy power is supposed to be a sacred gift for those loved by the gods. Even the saintess had to work for centuries to master it. He shakes off the annoying memory. The problem isn't the power, it's this stiff body. He checks his soul and breathes a sigh of relief. His skills are still there. But his physical form is so lazy, it refuses to listen to him. He grits his teeth, trying to force even the most basic healing spell. He's literally begging his own body to move, but it's not budging. He sighs deeply, knowing that any normal person would just give up right here. His hand grips the sheets, refusing to accept defeat without a fight. He threatens his own useless muscles to move before he kills them himself. A burst of energy surges through him. He cannot miss this opportunity. He shouts "Restore" and blasts the entire room with blinding holy light. It actually works. His bare feet finally touch the cold floor. He clutches the dresser for support, realizing he finally did it. He stumbles forward, thrilled that he has essentially acquired holy power. This is just step one. Once he recovers, he's getting all his skills back. He throws the window open, letting the fresh breeze hit his face. He gazes out at the kingdom he hasn't seen in 6 years. A warm blush crosses his cheeks. It's been a while since he felt the sun. His eyes sparkle with a sudden mischievous idea. He strikes a dramatic pose, stretching his arm out towards the sky. He throws his other hand up, completely losing himself in the moment. With every ounce of passion in his soul, he screams with all his might. Praise the sun. He looks like a total lunatic, and naturally the maid walks in and screams. She drops her tray in horror, staring at the coma patient, acting like a weirdo. He freezes mid-pose while she stares at him in total shock. He collapses on the floor in shame. He would honestly rather be dead right now. Later, the royal doctor checks him over, listening to his heartbeat. The doctor admits he's a strange one, but his body is surprisingly healthy. The old man asks if there are any other injuries, suspicious of the miracle. He strokes his beard, confused because the prince used to be incredibly rude. Davy just smiles politely, fully understanding his current position. He is Davy Alrone, the prince of the most insignificant kingdom on the map. The son of the late queen and technically the first prince of the nation. Suddenly, a sharp voice cuts through the air. How tenacious. The doors swing open, and the rest of the loving royal family arrives. Davy's eyes go cold as he recognizes that fancy woman. That is Linus Bariat, the snake who poisoned his mother to steal the throne. She even brought her 2 sons, his half-brothers, to enjoy the show. The second Prince Carlos smirks with pure malice. They openly mock him, surprised he survived being stuck in bed for so long. Then they casually discuss the very arrow that put him in the coma. Davy listens quietly, realizing they aren't even trying to hide it. With a fake smile, the queen asks if the assassins were ever captured. Davy stares back, wondering what kind of punishment they deserve. Her son starts to panic, sweating bullets under Davy's gaze. But the queen just waves her fan and declares the case closed. Davy's expression goes blank. He is completely done with these people. The doctor awkwardly finishes up, telling him to just rest and get better. Davy coldly dismisses them all, telling them to get out. The queen orders a soft meal for him, but whispers that he should have just died. He fires back instantly, asking if she's sad and Isor is back in her life. Carlos laughs, calling him a total embarrassment for getting attacked in the first place. They finally leave, and Davy sits alone in the silence. The doors slam shut on the so-called kingdom's embarrassment. He clenches his fist, trying not to laugh at their stupidity. He realizes he's been using holy magic right in front of them, but they are too weak to even notice. He remembers the queen and her sons, the snakes who ruined his family. He scoffs, realizing that compared to the monsters he fought, they are absolutely nothing. His time in the Hall of Heroes made earthly grudges feel meaningless, but he still wants revenge. For now, he decides to play it cool and focus on recovering his strength. Time flows by peacefully as his body begins to heal. 2 weeks later, he's already doing dips on the furniture like a beast. He stretches his legs, finally regaining control over his stiff limbs. He wipes the sweat from his brow, enjoying the leisurely pace of his new life. Thanks to his advanced mana control, his recovery is moving at light speed. With the forbidden knowledge of a necromancer and a saintess, fixing a human body is child's play. He snaps his fingers with style and shouts, "Clean." Water magic swirls around him, giving him an instant magical shower. He lands softly on the floor, looking fresh and completely spotless. He marvels at how convenient magic is for lazy people like him. Suddenly, Amy the maid walks in, and he freezes like a deer in headlights. She brings his meal, hidden under a fancy silver lid. He stares at it with dead eyes. It's just bland soup again. He complains internally that they are treating him like a toothless elder. Amy apologizes, looking like a kicked puppy. There's nothing she can do. He sighs and demands she bring him 5 more plates immediately. He inhales the first bowl in a single second, clattering the spoon down. He changes his mind, make that 10 plates. Amy panics, thinking his stomach will explode, but he tells her to just shove it in. He secretly uses Restore Magic to triple his digestion speed. He pats his belly, feeling his soul finally return to his body. Suddenly, his stomach lets out a dangerous, rumbling growl. Panic sets in, he needs a toilet, but patients aren't supposed to run. The only downside to superdigestion is super excretion. Later, he puts on his glasses to investigate the castle's finances. He reads the ledger and discovers a truly shocking truth. He sits Amy down and apologizes for his earlier rudeness. She bows nervously, terrified she did something wrong. He holds up the paper, worried about the cost of his massive appetite. He asks a simple question: how many staff are actually working here? She blushes and admits the impossible, it is just her. He facepalms, realizing he's been totally oblivious to her struggle. He can't believe one girl has been managing an entire castle alone. He looks at the weeds growing in the floor. It's a pathetic sight. He gets serious and asks for the total assets of the castle. She reveals they only have 6,000 gold, and she earns basically pennies. He asks about the monthly budget, trying to find the leak. They should get 500 gold, but the actual number is less than 100. Amy looks terrified as she realizes they are being extorted. He demands to know about her salary, refusing to let this slide. He stares into her soul. Is she getting paid properly? She admits she only gets about 1/3 of her promised wages. His eyes widen in disbelief. That is straight-up robbery. He thinks that while she is nice, she is also a total pushover. She's vulnerable because she isn't protected by nobility. She's just an artist's daughter with 0 power. Amy didn't just work there, she stayed loyal to him despite the crushing poverty. For 6 years, she spent her own money just to keep the castle from collapsing. Davy smiles warmly, his heart touched by her absolute loyalty. He orders her to take all her back pay from his funds, even if it bankrupts him. She panics, realizing that taking the money would leave them with 0 food for tomorrow. He cuts her off, annoyed that she keeps calling him by that stiff title, Prince. He might feel great physically, but that formal title puts a wall between them. He wants her to treat him like a person, not some distant, detached royal. Amy blushes, finally realizing she isn't just a servant, but his ally. They arrive at the massive, imposing doors of the financial department. He jokes that his ancestors would probably flip out seeing a prince do his own taxes. He notes bitterly that his father, the king, hasn't even bothered to show up. Amy flinches, terrified she crossed a line by mentioning the absent king. He reassures her, honestly, if the queen was involved, it would just be a total disaster. Amy steels herself, deciding she has no intention of backing down now. He tells her to hurry up, privately recalling how useless his father was when his mother died. That man isn't a father to him anymore. Now, Davy will pave his own way. Amy stares at his back, completely captivated by his new confidence. He flashes a charming smile that could melt even the coldest heart. He tells her he looks forward to working with her, sealing their partnership. His hand grips the handle, ready to confront the corruption inside. Inside, a snooty official creates excuses, claiming the funds are already accounted for. Davy stares at the guy's curly mustache and instantly gets ticked off. They step into the office, surrounded by stacks of books and judgmental stares. The staff whispers loudly, mocking him for coming alone with just one servant. The mustache man looks down his nose, clearly unimpressed by the fallen prince. Davy ignores the lack of respect and flops onto the couch like he owns the place. He sighs loudly, throwing his legs up with 0 regard for etiquette. His eyes glow red as he asks the golden question, "Are you messing with me?" The atmosphere drops to freezing, leaving the bureaucrats shaking in fear. He demands to know why his 500 gold budget has shrunk to less than 100. The official claims it's all for maintenance costs and tells the prince to be economical. Davy laughs in disbelief. This guy is really trying to piss him off. He asks if those maintenance costs are for the cracked floors and the weeds everywhere. The castle is literally a haunted house, yet this guy claims the money is being used. The official stands up, offended that his embezzlement is being questioned. Davy points out the absurdity, since when does a prince have to audit his own wallet? The official starts sweating, claiming his department doesn't supervise the spending. He passes the buck, saying they just manage numbers, not where the cash goes. Davy slams the desk, mocking his stupidity. "Oh, I didn't know that." It's the same everywhere. Incompetent bureaucrats just love to pass the blame. He decides he's done wasting breath and tells Amy they are leaving. He stops himself, realizing there is absolutely no point in going to maintenance. He knows exactly what will happen. They'll just blame someone else to buy time. The official mocks him as he leaves, telling him to survive on pocket change. Walking through the hall, Davy sarcastically compliments how orderly the ruins are. No wonder the servants fled. The nobles steal everything while the castle rots. And the only person who stayed to carry the burden was Amy. He turns to her with a cute smile and asks for a sword. She panics, but he promises he doesn't plan on cutting anyone yet. He laughs it off, asking if he actually scared her with his request. He grabs a stick and walks past her with a swagger, claiming he'll go find one himself. He clarifies that he has absolutely no intention of cutting a person. He only plans on slicing up things that can barely even be called human. If he just starts slaughtering corrupt nobles now, he'll be in a shaky position. They would just call him insane and exile him immediately. And he refuses to become prey to those rotten snakes again. Suddenly, thud, a giant dead boar drops onto the grass. Amy screams in terror, asking when and where he found that beast. He lies through his teeth, asking her to fetch a plate and some seasoning. Amy drops to her knees and begs him to just kill her instead. She is horrified that the prince has animal blood on his royal hands. Davy looks at her like she's crazy. She thinks he's gonna hurt himself butchering it. He pulls out a knife with a maniacal grin, ready to cook since no one is watching. With a swift motion, he starts chopping the meat like a pro chef. He knows he can't rely on the king, so he has to be self-sufficient. Queen Linus is blocking him, but she forgot he was trained by Hercules himself. He gives a thumbs up. This dangerous boar is nothing but tonight's dinner. Night falls over the castle, hiding the schemes brewing inside. Queen Linus snaps her fan shut, wondering what that useless prince is thinking. She admits he seems stranger than the boy she remembers. But the priests reported he can barely walk, so she assumes he is harmless. She glares at her spy, demanding to know if the intel is wrong. The spy Shirley stays silent under her blindfold. Linus insults her, calling her a lowly C-class maid despite being an assassin. Shirley admits the intel is right, but she can't shake this uneasy feeling. Davy sits alone in the dark, the prince abandoned by his own father. Linus clenches her hand, convinced she still holds his life in her palm. But Davy is already plotting, a dangerous smirk on his face. It should be that way, but the tables are about to turn. Suddenly, the atmosphere in the room drops to freezing cold. Shirley warns the queen, insult her comrades again, and there will be trouble. Linus feigns innocence, acting shocked by the sudden threat. She arrogantly claims she can stop Davy's plans any day. But if the spy steps out of line, she warns Shirley that she will pay the price for her insolence. She pours her tea onto the floor, dismissing the spy like trash. The red liquid stains the carpet like a pool of blood. Linus decides it's best to get rid of dogs that don't listen. Two maids walk down the hallway, plotting in the shadows. One whispers to the other, waiting for the command to strike. Meanwhile, Davy is happily enjoying his steak while Amy freaks out. He recalls his training, visualizing the mana pathways like a glowing tree. He remembers the Hall of Heroes and the absolute monsters who taught him. There was a sadistic mage and a goddess who treated him like a lab experiment. He didn't trust them back then, knowing they were just using him. He shudders, remembering the torture he promised to never go through again. He snaps back to the present, staring at the peaceful blue sky. Suddenly, the bushes rustle. Someone is watching. He calls out, asking if Amy is done exploring the garden. He takes a breath of fresh air, remarking that even the overgrown garden looks elegant today. Amy tells him she's okay on her own, asking to be notified if anyone comes looking for her. He tells her not to push too hard, happy that she is finally adapting to his presence. He wonders if his efforts to get closer to Amy are finally bearing fruit. He walks away with a smile, hoping to just spend his days peacefully. Deep in the forest, he sits down to start his secret operation. He activates a stealth spell, creating a barrier to hide from prying eyes. A magical field surrounds him, ensuring total privacy for his training. He closes his eyes and begins the ancient technique of mana breathing. As he inhales, he pulls raw mana from nature to nurture his core. This isn't just breathing, it's the legendary technique of Odin, the god of magicians. Since the body has a limit on storage, he must train and manage it on a daily basis. But with this miraculous method, months of work can be gathered in a mere few days. If the kingdom learned this secret, it would cause a massive revolution. But he has absolutely no intention of revealing this power to the world. Suddenly, the wind shifts and he realizes he isn't truly alone. Someone is watching him from the shadows of the trees. He flashes a sharp look, wondering exactly who the spy is. The leaves rustle above him, confirming an observer is hiding in the canopy. He knows it's the queen's doing, but looking into it now would just bring trouble. Actually, it helps him if they think he's just a weak and dumb prince playing in the woods. Thanks to his distortion field, he can train in peace while his mana accumulates. However, simply gathering mana isn't enough. He wipes the sweat from his brow. It's time to finally make that. He needs to create the legendary God-emmed mana circle. Usually priests and mages can't swap powers because their energies clash. And absolutely neither of them can touch the dark art of necromancy. But thanks to his hellish training, he can wield all three at once. He owes it all to those two crazy girls back in the Hall of Heroes. The oddball researchers who treated his body like a science project. He covers his mouth, feeling sick just thinking about their torture. Normal mages draw a circle on their heart, but that won't work for him. He takes a deep breath to steady his shaking nerves. His feet hover slightly off the ground as the power begins to manifest. A normal heart circle would be destroyed by the clash of holy and dead energy. So he must use the forbidden technique, the artery circle. He has to map the circle onto his entire vascular system instead of just the heart. Using his whole body as the circle prevents the energies from exploding his insides. But this is basically extreme body modification. One slip up means instant death. He looks at his hands, knowing the risk is absolutely insane. He hesitated before because his teachers always distracted him during the delicate process. He frowns, cursing the memory of those chaotic lessons. The question remains, will he actually succeed this time? He clasps his hands together, focusing every ounce of his willpower. His eyes widen as he recalls the lunatics who taught him this. The saintess and the mage stand behind him in his memory, watching their experiment. He smirks, failing here can't be worse than spending 1,000 years with them. He grins wildly and starts pumping mana directly into his blood. A massive burst of golden light explodes from the trees. Meanwhile, Amy waits patiently by the castle, unaware her master is becoming a god. Amy stands in the twilight, worried sick because the young master is late for dinner. This guy is usually tardy, but he has literally never missed a meal in his life. He warned her not to bother him, but what if he's out there bleeding in a ditch? She panics about the prince getting hurt, totally forgetting he hates that title. Suddenly, a noise from the bushes makes her jump out of her skin. Davy stumbles out of the woods, casually announcing that he is back. He notices her frantic face and teases her for waiting up for him. He sighs, realizing she is way too resilient for her own good. He smiles weakly, admitting to himself that he really needs to work harder. But his legs give out and he collapses right into her arms. Amy's face turns bright red, terrified by the sudden contact. He whispers a quiet apology, barely able to keep his eyes open. He admits he pushed his body to its absolute limit today. Her strength gives out and they both tumble onto the ground. He's completely out cold, looking more like a corpse than a prince. Hours later, he opens his eyes to the familiar ceiling chandelier. He realizes he's back in his own bed. Guess he got worried for no reason. He blinks, noticing something heavy resting on his side. Someone is holding his hand tightly, refusing to let go. It's Amy, sound asleep by his bedside after nursing him all night. He feels a pang of guilt, remembering how he suddenly passed out yesterday. He lifts his hand, staring at the glowing proof that he finally succeeded. The artery circle is complete, allowing 3 opposing powers to flow through his veins. A gentle breeze wakes Amy, and she realizes the bed is empty. Davy is already sitting on the windowsill, looking refreshed and absolutely majestic. He tells her his power is now limitless. He can cast spells with a single finger. He smiles through the glass, wishing his loyal mate a very good morning. 5 months fly by, and the castle is starting to look a little less abandoned. Amy comes running with a sack of food, excited about the fresh herbs she found. Davy acts cool, pretending he's fine with whatever, but he's secretly observing. He wipes his brow, thankful that their starvation days ended exactly 3 months ago. Ever since he stabilized his mana, a mysterious benefactor has been leaving supplies. He first thought it was the queen's poison, but no villain wastes good meat like that. He knows someone is helping, and he swears he heard them just yesterday. He closes his eyes, expanding his senses to find the truth. He locates a single presence sneaking around the castle walls. The helper stays hidden, careful not to disturb Amy's daily routine. Davy's eyes snap open. He knows exactly who is approaching. Heavy footsteps echo on the stone path. Someone is coming to the door. A hand grips a cane, signaling the arrival of an uninvited guest. Amy is oblivious, just happy they won't starve for another week. Davy suddenly interrupts, telling her to clean up because company is here. He smiles sharply, already knowing the identity of the visitor. The gates open to reveal the queen's personal informant. Back in the room, the priest inspects the sick prince with cold eyes. He checks Davy's pulse, looking for any sign of recovery. Davy plays the part of the invalid perfectly, smiling like a clueless idiot. The priest frowns, trying to figure out if the boy is truly broken. Davy asks if he'll get better, and the priest lies that holy power is too dangerous for him. He tells Davy to just be thankful, and Davy internally calls bullshit on the whole charade. The corrupt priest acts high and mighty, calling Davy a disappointment for not healing himself. Davy drops the act immediately, telling the priest to stop sugarcoating his lies. The snake feigns ignorance, pretending he doesn't understand the accusation. He claims holy power is exclusive to priests, calling Davy selfish for asking. Boraz hides a wicked smirk behind his hand. He knows the truth about Davy's condition. He insults Davy by comparing him to a rival prince, causing Amy to scream in defense. The priest's face twists into rage. How dare a lowly maid speak up? Smack, he slaps Amy right across the face in front of her master. The sound of breaking glass echoes as the room falls into a deadly silence. Davy stares at the floor, his voice dangerously calm as he calls out. He plays along to protect his cover, warning the priest not to let a maid cause problems. Amy cowers in fear, holding her cheek, completely humiliated by the assault. But the priest isn't done. He grabs her chin with his filthy hand. He licks his lips, looking at her like a predator eyeing a meal. Davy grips the bedsheet so hard his knuckles turn white. The priest arrogantly demands that Amy escort him to the door. He checks his fancy watch, promising to return in 15 days. Amy bows her head in defeat, forced to obey the man who just hit her. He glances back with teary eyes, trying to stay strong. The priest walks away with a smug, victorious sneer. Davy turns his head, unable to watch them leave without exploding. His eyes lock onto the decorative sword hanging on the wall. The ticking clock sounds like a countdown to disaster. The heavy doors slam shut, leaving him alone in the quiet. He stares at the ceiling, the silence deafening in the massive room. A memory flashes in his mind, a warning to remember his place. It reminds him of the queen threatening his spy to come alone at night. She claimed Davy's life was firmly in the palm of her hand. The priest thinks he's untouchable, treating a royal maid like trash. To them, Davy is nothing more than a helpless, sick prince. He recalls Amy's terrified face, the only person who actually cares. The sword on the wall seems to be calling out to him. A chill runs down his spine, his body feels terrifyingly cold. He stares at the door, trying to justify what he's about to do. The floor beneath him cracks from the sheer pressure of his rage. His hair shadows his eyes as he makes his final decision. He built up too much dignity in the Hall of Heroes to let this slide. His teacher Daphne once said he's less than an animal if he can't control his anger. He steps forward, crushing the marble floor with a single step. But he disagrees. He grabs the sword and prepares to hunt. Down the hall, the priest panics as he senses a terrifying presence. Davy lunges forward with the blade, driven by the spring of life. If laziness is advancement, then pure fury is his driving force. He lands in the hallway, blocking their path like a demon. He repeats the queen's words, mocking their false sense of security. They thought his life was in their hands, but now they face assassination. The priest laughs nervously, claiming the queen will praise him for killing a Haffy. He taunts Amy again, asking if she really thinks anyone is on Davy's side. He spreads his arms, bragging that he is the queen's personal shepherd. Davy sits on the windowsill, looking down at the fool with a terrifying smile. The priest stumbles back in shock. He was looking for an excuse to fight, but not like this. Before he can even blink, a terrifying shadow is already upon him. Davy pins him to the ground with pure speed, leaving the man gasping, "Your Majesty." With a cold smile, he ignores the priest and calmly asks Amy about the law. The priest coughs up blood, realizing he messed with the wrong prince. He tries to struggle, but his body is completely paralyzed by Davy's aura. Davy leans in, whispering that he never needed their dirty, sacred magic anyway. He holds out the blade, demanding an answer from the terrified maid. His voice drops an octave. He hates having to repeat himself. Amy trembles, realizing the penalty for threatening royalty is absolute death. She stammers, struggling to get the words out through her fear. That's all the permission he needs. He swings the sword down with zero hesitation. The verdict is delivered instantly, immediate execution. Dark blood splatters across the pristine marble floor. The priest gurgles his last breath, trying to call out to his queen. Davy stands over the corpse, refusing to be a passive victim any longer. A shadow covers his face as he prepares for the consequences. He thanks the dead man for the warning, but makes a dark promise. Anyone who stands with his enemies will be eliminated too. Later, the queen screams at the top of her lungs. She thinks he has gone completely crazy. Davy strolls in with a smirk, admitting he killed the disciple. The queen looks like she's about to have a stroke. He calmly explains that the priest threatened his life, so he just followed the law. She screams, calling him a bastard for using the rules against her. He shrugs, noting that the kingdom's laws have become brutally strict lately. He points out the king's silence, wondering why he is the one being scolded. He taps his chin, acting confused because her anger just doesn't make sense. The queen snaps, claiming royalty shouldn't bow to a low-ranked disciple. She accuses him of destroying the authority of the crown. She screams that there is no evidence and threatens to call the Holy Land. She insults him, saying he inherited his stupidity from his mother. She calls them both a shallow pair, digging her own grave. Devi's aura flares up, she just crossed a line. He glares at her with glowing eyes, cursing parents is bad behavior, especially when their child is standing right there. The queen flinches as a wave of killing intent washes over her. Suddenly, metal clanks, the guards make their move. Heavy chains are wrapped around Devi's wrists. The queen drops her fan in the chaos. He is surrounded, but he doesn't look worried at all. He glances at the disguised spy, mocking her loyal silence. The queen is on the floor, terrified because the plan nearly failed. Devi smiles, realizing he has them exactly where he wants them. Being too greedy just puts a nail in your own coffin. He sits comfortably in his chair, acting like he owns the place. He drops the bomb, trying to murder royalty is a crime. The queen freezes, her eyes wide with shock. She realizes with horror that he knows. He knows that Prince Carlos was the culprit behind the assassination attempt. And that wicked grin confirms the game is just beginning. He leans back in his chair, admitting he isn't stupid enough to show his trump card too early. He coldly states that the current situation simply doesn't suit his tastes. He yawns right in her face, asking her to leave because he is tired. He calls her a bastard, pointing out her cruelty for slapping a patient. The queen snaps back, mocking his shabby palace and demanding manners. He laughs, ordering her to fix it since she stole all his staff. She threatens him, warning that grotesque rumors will start spreading. He smiles dangerously, advising her to make her next decision carefully. He declares he won't sit still and let her bully him anymore. Crash, he shatters a vase to show he means business. The maids freeze, shocked that a half-blood dares to rebel. The queen screams in pure rage, furious that he dares to disdain her. She drops into a mocking curtsy, the room thick with tension. He watches her hand tremble, warning her to keep acting out if she wants trouble. She glares up from the floor, warning that his ignorance is a death wish. She promises that his arrogance will be the reason for his demise. Outside, the castle is buzzing. It seems the rumors are true. Whispers spread that something went wrong with the prince's head after the coma. Amy tries to hush them, defending her master's honor. But after the priest's death and the queen's warning, the palace is on edge. The situation in the inner palace is unfolding exactly as he expected. New rumors start circulating through the grapevine. They say the first prince has officially gone crazy. Since everyone loves the queen, his reputation takes a massive nosedive. Suddenly, Amy rushes in with starry eyes. More free loot has arrived. He sweats nervously. She thinks this is all happening because he's a good person. She shows off the herbs, thinking the universe is thanking him. She insists that someone out there must know his true nature. He puts on his glasses, asking if his personality really seems that good. He screams yes with a smile that could cure cancer. He blushes, amazed that she still thinks that after seeing him kill a guy. He shakes his head, deciding she is truly an amazing person. A voice interrupts their moment. Someone is at the door. It's Bisfuz, the Grand Chamberlain, greeting the small son of the kingdom. He presents the kneeling sinners who tried to steal the budget and run. Davy asks calmly how the kingdom normally punishes embezzlement. The answer is execution for them and their families, and they beg for mercy. Davy adjusts his glasses, realizing this is the perfect opportunity. He recalls a nasty rumor, claiming he is crazy for blood. The nobles whisper that he's a maniac, and he decides to embrace it. He smirks, deciding to act exactly as the rumors predict. The sinners scream, begging the mad prince to spare their lives. Their desperate pleas fall on deaf ears as he stares them down. He calls the chamberlain's name, ready to give his verdict. He orders them to be thrown in jail and denied even a sip of water. He declares they will be beheaded in 9 days, cementing his scary reputation. The prisoners are dragged away, screaming for the prince. He pivots to business, ordering that all staff positions be filled by noon. He adjusts his glasses again. There is one more thing. He asks the burning question, is he allowed to see his father yet? The chamberlain looks down with a heavy heart, apologizing because he is simply the messenger. Davy leans back, not surprised at all, realizing he's being blocked from seeing the king. He cuts off the old man's excuses. He knows patience is just code for shut up. The chamberlain sighs, relieved that the prince isn't throwing a tantrum over the rejection. The old man bows to leave but suddenly pauses as he remembers one last detail. He casually mentions the mysterious food deliveries, confirming that the prince ate them. He tells the old man to stop sending medicinal herbs because the meat is plenty. A knowing twinkle appears in the chamberlain's eye. He's been caught. He plays dumb with a smile, happy that the prince's kindness is finally being rewarded. He warns Davy about a special guest, proving that nothing in this castle escapes his ears. Davy smiles, realizing that silly old man was looking out for him the entire time. He wiped out the herbs with magic, yet the chamberlain pretended not to see a thing. That man controls all the king's staff, a rare ally in this nest of vipers. He suddenly freezes. Didn't the old man say a guest was arriving right now? The door handle turns slowly, signaling the arrival of this mystery visitor. Amy peeks her head in nervously, announcing the arrival of his siblings. Suddenly, the door flies open, nearly knocking poor Amy off her feet. A green-haired missile launches herself at him, screaming brother at the top of her lungs. The impact is so hard his glasses go flying across the room. It's Winley, the second princess, clinging to him like a koala. She pulls back, checking him over with wide, teary eyes. He got crushed because he couldn't use mana to block her without blowing his cover. She immediately starts scolding him, crying that he is way too careless. Behind her stands Boris, the fourth prince, looking much calmer than his twin. The king has 3 wives, and the royal family is a total mess. While the second concubine sucks up to the queen, the first concubine Anisha refused to play the game. These 2 are Anisha's children, making them Davy's half-siblings from a different mother. Winley's expression suddenly shifts from worried to deadly. Boris steps forward, but Winley is already winding up for an attack. Whack, she chops her own brother in the neck for absolutely no reason. She shoots him a terrifying glare, demanding to know what he is doing. She yells at him to stop acting so stiff and proper in front of Davy. She exposes him instantly, claiming he was whining to see Davy all morning. They start bickering like little kids, proving that some things never change. Watching them fight, Davy realizes they are nothing like the queen's snobby offspring. They drag him into their argument, screaming over who loves him more. They both turn to him with puppy eyes, shouting brother in unison. He smiles, thankful that at least these 2 are still on his side. He pats their heads, telling them to calm down before they destroy the carpet. They sit down for tea, the heavy weight of 6 years hanging in the air. They explain they were shipped off to a remote area the moment he fell ill. He realizes they were only 8 years old, powerless children who couldn't fight back. Their mother was so weak she even let the queen exile her firstborn daughter. She should have fought harder to protect the children she had left. Boris tries to be mature about it, but the pain is written all over his face. Davy grips his teacup, his blood boiling at the injustice. He asks if they saw the king, and Boris nods with a forced smile. Boris claims the king was just tired, but Winley looks like she wants to scream. She pouts, clearly upset that their father is being totally useless. Suddenly, Boris gets serious and mentions something they saw on the road. He looks around at the crumbling walls, knowing the condition of the palace is still a mess. He sips his tea, calmly reassuring them that the bastards who embezzled the money have been caught. Slam! Winley smashes her hand on the table, furious at the injustice. She trembles with rage, unable to believe they dared to steal from her brother while he was helpless. She screams that she's going to tell father immediately, but Davy stops her cold. Boris tries to protest, but Davy's calm demeanor silences his outburst. The boy shuts his mouth, realizing his brother has a different plan. Davy smiles warmly, telling them not to worry, he'll handle his own business. He wonders if their loyalty is real or just his imagination, but decides to trust them. He changes the subject, praising Winley's surprising talent in magic. Winley and Boris immediately start fighting again, screaming like typical siblings. Davy marvels that someone with her temper qualified for the Continental Swordsmanship competition. The twins freeze mid-argument as they realize the secret is out. Winley smacks Boris, blaming him for ruining the surprise. She clears her throat, trying to regain her composure. She pulls out a fancy envelope with the royal seal. She explains it's an invitation to the competition held every 5 years. This year, it's in the Palisti kingdom, designed to encourage harmony between nations. Davy reads the letter, noting it's basically the fantasy Olympics with swords. He looks up, wondering why they are showing him this. Boris explains that since Davy has never left the kingdom, he should take this opportunity. He describes the City of Water as a beautiful place perfect for recovery. Boris even offers to carry him on his back if he gets tired. Winley glares at Boris with jealousy, furious that he stole her idea. Davy sighs, realizing he has absolutely no choice in the matter. He can't reject an offer from the twins when they look so excited. They cheer in unison, throwing their teacups in the air and nearly destroying the palace. He watches them celebrate, wondering if they are really that happy just to travel with him. He steps forward, his boots clicking on the marble floor. He looks out the window, deciding it wouldn't be so bad to enjoy an event for once. He pulls out another letter from his pocket. He smiles mischievously, looks like he can have a little bit of fun too. He admits he's looking forward to it, and Winley's double personality scares him a little. Wine is poured into a goblet, signaling the start of a new chapter. With Barris turning 14, he's nearly an adult in the eyes of the kingdom. Davy muses that the kids should be having a nice conversation right about now. He taps the table, his mind already calculating the next move. The Chamberlain reassures him that the young master has become more upright. He praises Davy's calmness, surprised by how much the boy has grown. The king stands in the shadows, asking if even the Chamberlain acknowledges the change. He stares out the window, looking incredibly lonely in his grand chamber. He swirls his wine, his expression filled with deep sadness. Back in Davy's room, he places a photo frame on the mantel. It's a picture of his mother, and he smiles, satisfied that everything is perfect. He looks around the clean room, relieved he avoided living in a haunted house. Thanks to the Chamberlain, new workers were hired, and the palace finally looks like a palace. Amy clasps her hands, her eyes sparkling with pure awe. She can't believe this day finally came. She's so happy she might cry. Davy wonders if he pushed her too hard, but her tears of joy say she is glad. Suddenly, a knock at the door interrupts the moment. "Brother, are you ready?" He looks at the clock. It's finally time. Amy confirms she's packed everything for the long journey ahead. He hands her a bottle of wine, telling her to take care of it for him. The door clicks open as he asks if they are ready to go. The whole squad is assembled: Davy, Amy, and the chaotic twins Winley and Barris. Their destination is set, the Palisti kingdom. Flags wave in the wind, signaling the start of a massive celebration. It's time for the Continental Swordsmanship Competition, the biggest event on the continent. This event draws the world's attention, so its influence on politics is absolutely huge. In addition to Barris competing, Davy was allowed to tag along under the pretext of being ill. Crowds gather in the streets, cheering as the royal procession prepares to leave. If Barris achieves anything at this tournament, it would be a direct blow to Prince Carlos's position. The Queen agreed to let him go, probably thinking he's too weak to achieve anything. Davy watches the scene unfold, his mind racing with possibilities. Or maybe the Queen is planning something sinister behind the scenes. A heavy boot steps forward. The king has arrived to send them off. The Chamberlain announces the arrival of the kingdom's son, King Cryones Alrone. Davy stares at the man who is supposed to be his father. It's the first time seeing him since the coma. The king avoided him for half a year. The king raises his hand, commanding them to lift their heads. He looks at Barris with tired eyes and asks one simple question: "Are you confident?" Barris kneels, promising to represent the kingdom well through his achievements. The king places a hand on his son's shoulder, telling him to come back safe. He whispers something private to Barris, leaving Davy out of the loop. Davy stands there awkwardly, completely ignored by his own father. His expression is blank, but inside he feels a cold sense of detachment. The king turns and walks away without even glancing in Davy's direction. But just before he leaves, he drops a single sentence: "It's good to see you're healthy." Davy looks up in surprise, not expecting the sudden acknowledgement. He watches the king's back, deciding he won't waste any more emotions on that man. Suddenly, the king turns around and shouts to the crowd like a totally different person. Davy is shocked. The heroic, confident king he remembers is gone. Now he just looks like an old lion, completely tired of everything. The carriage wheels clatter as they leave the castle and enter the forest. Davy gazes out the window, watching the landscape fly by in the night. Winley complains that it's boring despite having elite guards protecting them. Barris worries that the carriage ride is tedious because of Davy's illness, but Davy says he's fine. Davy tells them to stop worrying and enjoy the wine he brought. Barris takes a sip and is amazed. He's never tasted such a fragrant wine before. He asks where Davy found such high-grade alcohol, and Davy claims it was his mother's. Winley hesitates, asking if they should really drink something meant to be saved. Davy laughs, pouring more. Wine is meant to be consumed on special days. Barris smiles, noting that his brother has really changed a lot. Davy used to be protective of his mother's things, but now he's more relaxed. He raises a glass, declaring that tasty wine shouldn't be shelved forever. They clink glasses as the carriage rolls on, creating a rare moment of happiness. Night falls and two moons hang in the starry sky. They set up camp for the night, planning to depart again in the morning. Barris checks on Davy, worried since it's his first time camping out. He asks about Winley, complaining that she tried to sleep next to Davy. Davy laughs awkwardly. Winley got drunk and became a total menace. Barris reminisces, remembering how his brother always wanted to try camping like this. Davy smiles softly, knowing they kept the parade short just to accommodate his weak condition. A trip that should have been a quick horse ride is now a slow crawl because he's playing the patient. He thinks about the king, the old lion sitting on a throne of thorns. He wonders if some things, like his siblings' kindness, will always stay the same. He waves goodnight to Boris, sending him off to sleep. Amy asks if he will rest too, but he's already stretching for some nighttime activity. He gazes up at the sky, remarking that the moon looks exceptionally pretty tonight. He casually snaps a branch off a nearby tree. With a swift motion, he strips the leaves, transforming the stick into a makeshift sword. He stares at the twin moons, deciding it's the perfect night for a comeback. He points to the sky, naming the red moon Cyrus and the blue one Crias. A voice from the shadows praises his knowledge, noting that Cyrus signals the beginning and Crias the end. Davy laughs, mocking the hidden figure. Even a snotty kid knows that much. He sighs dramatically, wishing he could have this romantic conversation with a woman instead. The assassin reveals himself, asking what the hell the prince is muttering about. Davy turns around with a smile, acting surprised to see someone coming from the bushes. The assassin stammers, thinking he saw a ghost because Davy vanished from his sight. Davy knows there are 5 guards protecting them, 4 of which are elite experts. That should be enough security, as long as nothing big happens. But he pinches the air, sensing a massive group of assassins closing in. There are around 20 of them, hiding their bloodthirst perfectly until the moment of attack. It's obviously the queen's doing. She wants to wipe out all 3 royal siblings at once. Davy leaps from the tree, annoyed that he has to expose his strength so soon. But he smirks, realizing it doesn't matter because dead men tell no tales. His wooden stick glows blue, charged with lethal mana. He descends like a hawk, unleashing a devastating shockwave that flattens the forest. He lands gracefully as assassins go flying. His master taught him to use gums if he has no teeth. He spins the stick, proving that anything can be a weapon in the hands of a master. With the right mindset, even a piece of cloth can cut like a legendary sword. He smirks at the fallen enemies, disappointed that they were only capable of this much. Compared to his teacher Hermesa, the Hand of Death, these guys are absolute amateurs. One assassin falls to his knees, terrified by the boring bastard destroying his squad. Davy points his stick at the survivor, asking just to confirm. "Did Queen Linus send you here?" He walks toward them casually, noting they look way too serious for a game of bull rush. He swings his stick, telling them they don't have to answer if they want to die. He steps forward, crushing the ground beneath his heel. The assassin freezes as Davy appears right behind him like a phantom. Davy's eye glows red. He genuinely wonders what the queen hoped to achieve. Killing 3 royals would shake the entire kingdom to its core. Even the queen would have a hard time covering up such a massive disaster. He recalls the queen's arrogance and wonders, is there a reason she is so confident? Splat, blood sprays into the air as the assassin meets his end. Davy stands amidst the carnage, asking the last one if he's still too stupid to run away. He tells the survivor to go back and deliver a message to the queen. The assassin trembles, realizing he is being spared just to be a messenger. Davy warns him, "Tell her I'll destroy everything she has, even if she leaves me alone." He rests the stick on his shoulder, looking like the devil himself. A terrifying grin spreads across his face. The hunt has officially begun. He jumps from the tree, mocking them for actually running away when he told them to. But surprise, the escape was a fake and they fall right into his random movement pistol trap. One assassin coughs up blood, realizing too late that he fell for the oldest trick in the book. Davy lectures them that patience is fundamental, asking how they can even call themselves assassins. He swings his stick with lethal precision, reminding them that if no one sees it, it's still an assassination. He smiles innocently while delivering a death blow, telling them to remember his famous saying. 3 more jump him at once, thinking they can overwhelm him with numbers. He dodges effortlessly, warning them that attacking from behind is utterly useless. He spots one trying to flee into the forest, abandoning his comrades. While the others are busy dying, Davy unleashes a beam of pure energy to snipe the runner. The beam pierces the night sky, striking the fleeing assassin with godlike accuracy. He looks at his weapon with disgust, telling them they aren't even worth a broken branch. He extends his arm, pointing a single finger like a loaded gun. Lock on, he reveals he had them targeted the moment he saw them. A massive magical seal appears in the sky. Unless they cross the continent, there is no escape. He snaps his fingers, triggering soul explosion to obliterate their very existence. It's a brutal technique that erases souls instantly, ensuring a proper end for his enemies. He recalls his teacher's advice, never show mercy to those who try to kill you. He stretches his back, looking bored after slaughtering an entire squad. He steps on the broken branch, satisfied that he gave them a proper end. He surveys the carnage, declaring it a perfect assassination since no witnesses remain. Meanwhile, Queen Linus sits in her palace, eagerly asking her spy how the mission went. The spy reports with a trembling voice that all the life candles of her students have gone out. Every single flame has been extinguished, signaling total failure. The queen is shocked. Her entire elite squad was wiped out in one night. Her hand shakes as she holds her tea, demanding to know what happened to those bastards. They should have just arrived in Palisti, yet they are already dead. Slap, she strikes her spy across the face in a fit of rage. She screams, furious that they couldn't handle just 3 children and 5 knights. She falls to her knees, unable to believe the Black Moon Guild was this incompetent. The spy reveals a shocking detail. It seems Prince Davy has a mysterious helper. Linus bites her thumb, wondering who would dare help those damn halfies. She grinds her teeth, her hatred for them burning hotter than ever. She orders the spy to find the helper, vowing to show them the consequences of crossing her. She reminds the spy that she isn't supporting the guild just to see them fail. She delivers a final ultimatum: if they fail again, there will be no second chance. The spy bows, understanding that their contract and likely her life will end. Linus threatens to use the full power of her family and the country to bury the guild. Under the twin moons, the spy vanishes, promising to keep the warning in mind. Morning comes and Boris wakes Davy up with excited shouts. Winley points out the window. They have finally arrived at the Palisti kingdom. Davy groans, telling Winley to act like a lady, but she just tells him to shut up. This small city-state is the size of Singapore but built on ancient ruins. It's known as one of the most beautiful places on the entire continent. They step out of the carriage, marveling at the stunning architecture. Boris notices Davy's smile, happy to see his brother finally enjoying himself. And looming before them is the massive Colosseum where the competition will be held. Winley explains that the stadium is normally used as a brutal fighting ground. Fighters and even monsters battle for their lives there, which Davy finds completely barbarous. He asks about the competition details, and Boris confirms that 8 countries are participating this time. The big event kicks off, listing heavy hitters like Fallon, Philip, and Scorden as the host countries. But this isn't a war, it's a showcase where the kingdom's representatives take center stage. Davy knows exactly what this is really about, a petty battle of pride between nations. Since it's limited to those under 20, he realizes it's just a playground for the younger generation. Speaking of young, the Roan Kingdom is sending this idiot, Boris, to fight for their honor. When asked why he's there, Davy jokingly claims he just came for a date, confusing the hell out of him. Jokes aside, Boris has reached the level of a mid-level expert, which is honestly impressive for a kid. Then the topic shifts to the Fallon Kingdom's ace, the famous Princess of the Sword. Everyone acts like he should know her, but Davy's memory is drawing a total blank. He realizes a new star must have risen while he was stuck in that 6-year coma. Her name is Alina de Fallon, the only princess among 9 princes and the crown prince's favorite. Her fame isn't just royalty, she carries the weight of the great Fallon Kingdom on her shoulders. But the real reason she's legendary, she's the chosen owner of a god sword. That's right, she wields calderas, a masterpiece forged over 1,000 days and nights. Hearing that name, Davy freezes. That blade belonged to his lazy teacher, the sword god Hares. He heard about that sword until his ears bled, forcing him to recall some annoying memories. It seems even outside the hall, his teacher left a massive mark on history. Knowing the history behind the blade, Davy feels a bit strange hearing it's in the hands of a princess. Suddenly, a cloaked figure walks past him, and his head snaps around like he sensed a ghost. The girl pauses, sensing his gaze, but Davy stays silent, wondering if his instincts are acting up. She clutches her necklace nervously while Davy whispers a quiet "no" to himself. He quickly shakes it off, telling the others it's nothing to avoid suspicion. Rumor has it that the god sword Calderas has never been damaged in its entire existence. It possesses an ego, a spirit born from the maker's soul and the swordsman's love, allowing it to use magic. It's not called a god sword for nothing. It waited hundreds of years just to choose Princess Alina. Boris suddenly gets serious, claiming there's one more reason why she's so famous. He adjusts his glasses dramatically, preparing to drop the most important fact. Turns out he's just simping because she's one of the 5 blossoming beauties of the continent. Later, Davy is forced into a fancy suit by his maid, complaining that the ribbon is too much. He tries to argue he's just a spectator, but he still has to represent the Roan Kingdom's dignity. He sighs, realizing that royals are surprisingly simple-natured creatures when it comes to appearances. The competition isn't just about fighting, it's a massive social hub for international politics. So obviously they can't just watch battles, they have to play the social game too. Suddenly, Winley floats in like a flower, calling out to her brother in a gorgeous dress. Davy compliments her, but Winley immediately starts gushing over how cool Barris looks. Jealous of the attention, she violently stomps on Barris's foot to shut him up. Leaving her actual brother in pain, she shamelessly asks Davy to be her escort instead. Davy plays along with a smile, taking her hand and leaving Barris in the dust. As they walk in, a mysterious girl watches from above, whispering strictly to Your Majesty. Inside, the noise is overwhelming, but this chaos is just part of building new friendships. The mysterious girl touches the flowers, musing that she heard Davy visited the village earlier. She notes that despite the rumors, the place wasn't too bad. But her tone is sharp, calling the kingdom a barbarous place despite its beauty. The scene shifts to the grand ballroom, dazzling with lights for the Eve festival banquet. Nobles from every corner of the continent are mingling, hiding their true intentions behind polite smiles. Davy scans the room, noting that since it's age-restricted, everyone looks incredibly young and inexperienced. Even though there are older chaperones like him, the energy is definitely dominated by the youth. But in this sea of elites, there is one person attracting the most attention. Poor Barris is sweating bullets as people crowd around him to meet the Roan Prince. He's completely surrounded by nobles from Perdicia and Yushin, realizing that being popular is a total nightmare. Davy watches Barris drown in a sea of nobles, realizing this is the perfect chance to scout the competition. But while Barris sends desperate mental SOS signals, Davy decides the best lesson is total abandonment. He wonders how to help the fledgling, then immediately concludes that ignoring him is the funniest option. He coldly turns his back, leaving his poor brother to be eaten alive by the social sharks. Instead, he turns to Winley and asks for a dance, leaving Barris screaming in the background. Barris watches in betrayal as his siblings ditch him, while Davy tells him to enjoy his youth. As they glide across the floor, Davy admits he never thought he'd see the day he'd dance with her. Winley acts humble about entering the social hierarchy, but Davy knows she was born to be a lady. He notices a shadow on her face and asks if she's upset, knowing her illness held her back for years. He reassures her that if things were different, she would have been standing in that arena too. Winley thinks he's just hyping her up, but Davy knows reaching expert level by 14 is no joke. He tells her talent is an illusion. Without hard work, even a genius amounts to nothing. But then he shrugs, claiming none of that grinding matters to him anymore since he's retired. Winley calls him a grandpa for wanting a leisurely life, and honestly, she's not wrong. Seeing her laugh makes it all worth it. She's finally happy and healthy. Suddenly, a greasy voice interrupts the moment, ruining the wholesome vibes. A tall figure looms over them, calling out to Princess Winley with zero hesitation. This guy claims he's been looking forward to this, but Davy instantly recognizes a slimy bastard. He wonders if this creep knows his sister, while Winley looks completely terrified. Her expression says it all. She wants nothing to do with this predator. The guy aggressively grabs her hand, ignoring her obvious discomfort. He demands a chat like he owns the place, forcing his unwanted attention on her. Winley tries to pull away politely, saying she's busy with her brother, but he won't let go. The grip tightens and the sound of a click signals that this guy doesn't take no for an answer. He fake apologizes for his manners, wearing a smile that makes you want to punch him. He introduces himself as Valian du Boltes, the 7th prince, dropping his title like a weapon. Davy steps up calmly and introduces himself simply as Davy Alrone. Valian hits him with a spark of magic, basically asking, "So what?" with pure arrogance. He mocks Davy for interfering, implying a Prince of Boltes is way above a Roan nobody. With a smug look, he dismisses Davy entirely, acting like he's trash. He tells Davy to have a pleasant stay, clearly trying to shoo him away like a bug. Then he turns his back on Davy and tries to drag Winley away by force. He claims he wants to win the competition in her honor, completely ignoring her wishes. Winley's had enough. She calls him out for being rude to the other participants. But this delusional guy says it won't be rude once he makes his victory a reality. She snaps back that her twin brother is competing, so he's basically insulting her family. She grabs Davy's arm and tries to storm off, shouting, "Let's go, brother." Davy watches her stand up for herself, proud that she can finally fight back. But the slimy prince isn't done, his eyes narrow, refusing to let his prey escape. He grinds his teeth, clearly not used to being rejected by anyone. He screams at them, demanding to know if they are looking down on him. He rushes forward and tries to grab Winley again, crossing the final line. Davy's eyes go cold. He decides he's seen enough. He calmly thinks, "I've been patient enough with this clown." Smack, he grabs the prince's hand and twists it, claiming his hand just slipped. Valian screams in agony as Davy bends his arm like a pretzel. Davy stares him down, warning him never to touch his precious sister again. He tells the guy to feel lucky he didn't break any bones, just to save the competition. Valian clutches his arm, shouting that the stupid apprentice has a rotten personality. But as he glares, he realizes he just messed with the wrong monster. Suddenly, a white object smacks Prince Valian right in the face, leaving him stunned. It slides down to the floor, revealing itself to be a glove, the universal symbol of war. Valian loses his mind, pointing a trembling finger and screaming, "I challenge you to a duel." Winley immediately steps in, shouting that this has gone far enough, trying to shield her brother. But the prince clutches his chest, claiming he must do this to restore his honor as a knight. Suddenly, a commanding voice cuts through the noise, warning him about the ruckus he's causing. The crowd parts in awe as a golden-haired beauty appears. It's the famous Princess Alina. She stares him down, stating she's been watching the whole time and questions his so-called honor. She hits him with a brutal question: does a creep like him even have the right to reclaim anything? Davy watches silently, his interest piqued by this new power player entering the scene. She hails from the Valian Empire, the home of the legendary holy sword Caldaras. Legends say the original owner could summon tsunamis, but Davy thinks that sounds way too cool for his lazy old master. He mutters the name Horus, completely fixated on the princess standing before him. Alina freezes, her sharp eyes locking onto Davy as she hears that familiar name. The crowd whispers that she is the Emperor's forbidden treasure, but Davy is stuck in his own memories. He realizes his little test worked. Her reaction proves she knows exactly who he's talking about. But he's confused. How can the owner of the holy sword resemble his teacher so much? Horus was definitely a dude, so seeing a princess with his status feels like a cosmic prank. Davy stares a little too intensely, trying to solve this gender-bending mystery in his head. Alina steps closer, demanding to know what he just said, her eyes burning with suspicion. Davy realizes he messed up and quickly tries to backpedal out of the awkwardness. He bows politely, claiming he was simply mistaken to avoid blowing his cover. She narrows her golden eyes, clearly not buying his flimsy excuse for a second. Davy flashes a bright, fake smile, telling her to just forget it like nothing happened. Suddenly, Boris rushes in, panting and asking how this chaos escalated so quickly. Davy gives a sly wink, amused that he's crossed paths with Alina de Valian. Alina turns her attention back to the slimy prince, demanding an answer for his behavior. She scolds him publicly, stating that being rude to a lady is a disgrace to everyone there. She questions if he's worthy of knighthood, humiliating him in front of the entire nobility. Davy watches from the sidelines, thinking she's just as charismatic as the rumors say. She lays down the law: if he considers himself a knight, he must apologize immediately. Valian grinds his teeth, looking like he's about to explode from the shame. Davy sighs, knowing a guy with that much pride won't go down without a fight. Valian shifts his stance, his boot scraping the floor as he makes a dangerous decision. A wicked smirk creeps across his face. He sees a way to turn this mess around. He stares past the princess and shouts that he accepts the duel against Davy. Boris looks at his brother in shock, wondering what the hell is happening. Davy just smiles calmly, thinking, "Good, you won't run from me." Alina tries to stop it, calling it a meaningless fight, but Valian cuts her off. Davy picks up the glove with a grin, confirming that the duel is on. With zero hesitation, he looks the prince in the eye and says, "I accept." He grabs a wooden practice sword, remarking that it's been quite a while since he held one. Boris warns him that Valian is a swordsmanship competitor, but Davy just brushes it off. He pats Winley on the head, telling her not to get so worked up over a little game. Valian mocks Davy's stance, telling him he looks like an amateur and should just give up. He offers a deal: if Davy kneels and admits defeat now, he'll let him off the hook. Boris tries to intervene, but Davy just laughs, telling the prince to watch closely. He steps forward confidently, claiming a demonstration will speak louder than words. He glances back at Alina, asking if she agrees that actions matter more than talk. Valian smirks, declaring that if he somehow loses, he'll act like a dog and kneel instead. Davy taps the wooden sword against his shoulder, smiling coldly as he warns the prince not to regret this later. The referee shouts "begin," and the atmosphere instantly shifts into a battlefield. Davy pauses for a second, calculating exactly how he should humiliate this guy. He remembers that his body is still weak from the coma, so a direct power struggle is suicide. So instead of a combat stance, he stands on one leg like a flamingo just to mock him. With dead eyes, he asks the prince if he's scared to attack a cripple. Valian laughs it off, claiming he was just being generous by waiting. But his ego snaps and he screams that Davy is about to get absolutely crushed. Suddenly, a literal light bulb goes off in Davy's head. He realizes he has the perfect strategy locked and loaded for this exact moment. Valian launches himself forward, vowing that he won't hold back anymore. He swings with enough force to create a shockwave, aiming to end it in one hit. But Davy is already inside his guard, grinning like a demon right in his face. Whack! Davy bypasses the blade entirely and smacks him right on the wrist. The pain is instant, forcing the prince to drop his weapon in pure shock. Valian stares in disbelief, unable to process how he made such a stupid mistake. He thought his speed was unmatched, but he just got blitzed by a patient. Valian picks up his sword and attacks again, but Davy is practically dancing around him. The prince grunts in frustration, swinging at a ghost that just won't stay still. Davy mocks him mid-fight, sarcastically worrying about his own fragile hands. Smack! Another sharp blow lands, sending a jolt of agony through the prince's arm. The blade goes flying into the air again, completely disarming the so-called expert. Valian collapses in humiliation as his wooden sword clatters to the floor. Davy plays the innocent fool, asking if he accidentally got hit by that clumsy strike. Valian is fuming, realizing he's being toyed with by a mere brat. The crowd whispers are brutal, calling the prince's performance absolutely unsightly. The shame burns hotter than fire, and Valian grinds his teeth in pure rage. Abandoning all honor, he screams that he's going to kill Davy for real. Davy just fixes his hair, laughing that such crude skills won't kill anyone. Clack! Valian swings wildly, but every strike is met with a sharp counter. Thwack! Davy targets the hands again and again, making Valian curse in pain. The prince flinches, completely unable to defend against the barrage of calculated hits. Davy analyzes him mid-fight, realizing the prince's posture is total garbage. Valian panics as their swords lock, realizing there is no way he can win this. Another hit, another disarm, the reality sinks in, he is losing to a recovering patient. He stares at his trembling hand, unable to process why this is happening to him. In his reflection, he sees Davy standing tall, looking down on him like a god. Desperate, he tries one last wild swing to save his crumbling ego. Crack! The wooden sword lands perfectly and Valian screams, wondering why fate is so cruel. The nobles on the balcony watch in silence, witnessing the public execution of a prince's pride. Valian sits on the floor, defeated, while Davy stands over him with a mock expression of pity. Davy points out the obvious, he got hit again right in the face. Valian clutches his bruising face, staring up with eyes full of murderous intent. The crowd starts counting the hits, wondering if this clown is really the famous Valian. The whispers destroy his reputation, suggesting he was never an expert to begin with. He smashes his fist into the floor, screaming at the crowd to shut up. He glares at Davy, trembling with humiliation and uncontrollable rage. Davy calmly asks if his anger has blinded him to the truth of the fight. He adjusts his grip, revealing that this weird style was made for moments like this. It's a style wielded as if the user is wasted, the invention of the greatest drunkard hero, Doc Go Jun. Davy recalls the day his master proposed creating the most evil and maverick swordsmanship style in history. But even that lazy god warned him, only use this on someone who deserves to be buried under society. It was a technique so dirty that even its creators treated it as a taboo. It wasn't banned because it was too strong though. Davy dodges a lethal strike effortlessly, realizing the true nature of this forbidden art. It's not about power, it's all about slippery footwork and dirty tricks. The style is deeply embedded with manipulating and deceiving the opponent at every turn. It doesn't care about protection or killing. The only goal is to completely embarrass the opponent in public. And honestly, the style suits its title perfectly. It waits for an opening, avoids the attack, and delivers a fatal blow to their ego. But the main side effect is that it really riles up the victim. Davy casually deflects the blade, letting it slide right past his defense. With a simple trip, the prince goes face first into the floor, and the more witnesses, the better. Davy stands tall, soaking in the atmosphere of pure humiliation. It's working exactly as intended, just like now. He adds salt to the wound, loudly asking if the expert is okay because that thud sounded painful. He admits to himself that this is actually fun. He realizes he's much more suited to this troll style than proper swordsmanship. Valian snaps, gripping his sword until his knuckles turn white. He completely loses it, summoning his aura and screaming that he'll kill him. The crowd gasps at the sword spirit, realizing the prince has gone insane. He swings with lethal force, shouting that this is no longer non-murderous training. Davy stays calm, knowing if he reveals his true power now, it'll be suspicious. Moreover, he has another problem. He can feel a cold gaze drilling into him from the balcony. He shifts his feet, deciding to end this with finesse. Stomp, he steps firmly on the prince's foot, freezing him in place. Before Valian can react, Davy closes the distance and whispers, "Caught you." The prince stares in horror as Davy moves faster than his eyes can follow. The wooden sword strikes, shattering the momentum of the attack. Valian's face twists in confusion, realizing he's been outplayed. The world spins as Davy uses the prince's own force to flip him. A devilish grin spreads across Davy's face. Valian looks up, helpless, realizing he made a grave mistake. Davy whispers one final insult, "Stupid bastard." With a swift kick, he sends the noble prince flying. Valian crashes down hard, sprawling out in the most undignified way possible. The entire ballroom goes silent, followed by a collective groan of second-hand embarrassment. Boris watches in shock, realizing his good-for-nothing brother just dominated. Valian lies on the carpet, his mind completely blank. His heart pounds in his ears, unable to process the reality of his loss. He groans in pain, realizing someone is on top of him. Davy sits comfortably on the prince's chest, laughing that they both took a tumble. He loudly asks why Valian is down there, playing the innocent fool. But the wooden sword is pressed firmly against the prince's throat. Davy beams with a smile, declaring that it seems like he won.